Morning and welcome to the first meeting of the Interim Joint Budget Review Subcommittee on Justice and Judiciary for the 2024 session. Any meeting materials received were posted online earlier this week and made available for downloading. This time we'll have the Secretary call the roll.
Senator Nemes, Senator Schickel, Senator Webb, Representative Brown, Representative Decker, Representative Kulkarni,
Present.
Representative Sharp, Senator Mays-Bledsoe, Senator McDaniel, Representative Bowling, Representative Bray, Representative Petrie, Representative Elliott, Co-Chair Funky Fromeyer,
Present.
and Chair Flannery.
Here. I do not believe we have a quorum, but being the first meeting, we do not have any minutes to approve. So, appears first on the agenda, we have an update from the Department of Juvenile Justice and three different folks affiliated with them, if they'd like to come to the table. All right, if you all could identify yourselves for the record, please.
Roberta McCann, Director of Division of Administrative Services for DJJ.
And the agenda says Elsie Berger. He was not able to be here. I'm Rebecca Norton. I'm the Budget Director for the Justice Cabinet.
All right, thank you. I guess in fairness to you all, I know there's I've read reports of a pending investigation, so just, if there's anything, you're not compelled to testify today if you all don't want to. I think in fairness, I need to state that, and I do appreciate you all being here. And you're, I guess, here on your own free will. I believe we will have some questions, but I just wanted to put that on the record, so I want to be sure that, you don't have to say anything that you don't feel comfortable saying because of that investigation. If you all would like to begin your presentation.
Good morning. Again, I'm Randy White, Commissioner for the Department of Juvenile Justice. I appreciate the support of our legislators and of Governor Beshear. It's good to be with you this morning. And again, thank you all for your support. Effective April the 1st of this year, I was appointed Commissioner of the Department of Juvenile Justice. I retired from the Commonwealth Service after well over 27 years, almost 28 years. I was employed by the Department of Corrections. During that time, I worked in 6 different high-security prisons in Kentucky. 3 years as a warden at the Kentucky State Penitentiary, 3 years at the Green River Correctional Complex and 6 years at the Kentucky State Penitentiary. Most recently, prior to retirement, I spent 5.5 years here in Frankfort in central office as the Deputy Commissioner supervising all operational aspects of adult prisons in Kentucky. While I have extensive experience in adult detention, I previously held positions ranging from accreditation specialist, classification and treatment officer, unit administrator, and I also taught self-help groups and life skills to offenders within the prisons. All of this to say, after 27 years of serving in corrections and having interactions with juveniles as they were transferred from detention to prison, I can honestly say that juveniles entering the criminal justice system are a different population than they were 27 years ago. They're committing harsher crimes which require stronger rehabilitative efforts. For Kentucky to truly reduce the juvenile population, we must focus our efforts on alternatives to detention. Education, programming, employment, and mental health. Our juveniles need our support, and I pledge to do just that by prioritizing our efforts on reducing youth crime and recidivism. Increasing mental health treatment, enhancing employee training, and securing all 27 juvenile facilities within the Commonwealth to better protect youth and staff while continuing to implement the administration's aggressive plan to enhance safety in response to violent incidents. The Department of Juvenile Justice manages offenders who are committed for crimes committed. While we must strike a balance between safety, security, and treatment and reintegration, our detention facilities must be safe, well-managed, and secure. Many practices and standards used in adult detention are universally applicable and standard in the industry, whether in jails, juvenile detention, or adult correctional facilities. These best practices will continue to be developed and applied within detention facilities and to some extent in youth development centers, but I am fully conscientious of the unique management concepts and mission associated with the Department of Juvenile Justice. A path and groundwork must be laid in detention, beginning with security, safety, that leads to a stable, well-managed facility, encouraging treatment, and a quality work and living environment for staff and the youth in our care. On April the 1st, upon appointment, I hit the ground running, spending considerable time and long hours becoming familiar with people, processes, departmental needs. In fact, I physically toured nearly half of our facilities across the state. And I hope to complete the tours by the end of the summer, but I also hope to spend time in our courtrooms with our detention alternative coordinators to learn more about what they do and the dynamics that occurs in the courtrooms. It is my intention to become a regular visitor to our staff in the field, and I think I've proven that already. I've managed to get through half of our facilities. During my time on tours, the level of dedication and care demonstrated by career staff toward youth in our care and custody has been very impressive. They have demonstrated to me a level of sincerity. As the Commissioner of the Kentucky Department of Juvenile Justice, it is my intention to provide ceaseless leadership moving the department forward. I bring with me extensive experience, nearly 3 decades, managing people that are in our custody. They're human beings, whether they're young people or they're older people. They're human beings. I have a drive to put forth the effort required to accomplish our progressive goals, and I care about our staff and the juveniles in our custody and care. It is my intent to further develop, encourage, and support an expansion of educational, treatment, detention alternative, mental and medical health services, and reentry alternatives for our youth. To fully provide optimum services to the youth in our care and custody, the Department of Juvenile Justice should continue to build and expand upon relationships with that have been established with agencies, such as the Administrative Office of the Courts, CHFS, Department of Education, the Labor Cabinet, Economic Development, and beyond. DJJ is a complex department managing juveniles spanning youth in our care who are truant or detained pending preliminary court dates, ranging all the way to committed offenders for violent crimes with lengthy sentences. Our mission is only fully accomplished through teamwork spanning multiple cabinets, departments, public-private partnerships, and tapping into teamwork and resources available through working with these agencies. And as the Commissioner, I'm very committed to reaching out to these agencies. Thus far, I've had good response from other agencies. We've had meetings, and we came upon some ideas already this early into my tenure to improve upon services. Now, I've got talking points, and I'm prepared, and I think that'll be matched up with the PowerPoint that you will be seeing. So if you're ready, I'll just start working through those PowerPoints and lead you right through it. Yes, sir. The DJJ operates services and pre-conviction and post-disposition. DJJ does not determine who comes into its services and systems, and it is required to meet the needs of youth and the court requirements while maintaining safe and secure facilities. We operate 27 facilities across the state as of May the 29th of this year. 8 of those facilities are secure detention centers containing 238 youth as of the 29th. It could be June the 5th. That it may be updated as of today, but that was 238 youth in detention centers. six youth development centers containing 96 youth, 8 group homes with 43 youth, and 5 day treatment centers, which are DJJ operated, and it's hard to pin down with accuracy the numbers because it's a moving target with those youth. In 2023, around 1,400 youth were placed in alternatives to detention. Over the past decade, the juvenile justice detention center population has changed, resulting in a decrease in non-felony charges and an increase in felony charges. This is driven in part by Senate Bill 200's implementation in 2014. In short, Senate Bill 200 successfully diverted juveniles with lower level offenses. This leaves a larger proportion of youth in detention and higher level offenses. Recently, impacts of legislation on the DJJ population, and I'll just read through the bullets. DJJ serves youth who are assigned to detention or post-adjudication services by the court. In 2023, House Bill 3 required automatic detention of youth charged with violent crimes. This provision will start effective July 1st of this year and will have significant impact upon the detention population. We, the DJJ, requested a delay in implementation, which the Senate passed in Senate Bill 242. But the House did not make final passage on the bill, and I will discuss more upon this in a few minutes. There was a lot of discussion about 2024 House Bill 5 during this past legislative session, particularly in regards to the cost to the adult correctional system. This bill expands the definition of violent crime, enhances penalties for certain existing crimes, and creates new crimes. DJJ expects an increase in juveniles in detention services and pre-adjudication services, and expects more youth will be in the DJJ system for longer amounts of time due to increased sentences. 2024 Senate Bill 20 required youth 15 years or older to be tried as an adult for Class A, B, or C felony charges in which a firearm was used. This will result in more youth being tried and sentenced as adults and more youth staying in DJJ facilities for longer periods of time. This bill also removes the possibility for youthful offenders who are tried and convicted as adults to be placed on probation or conditional discharge when they turn 18. This will result in some youthful offenders not having an incentive to comply with DJJ treatment programs while serving their sentences in a DJJ facility prior to their 18th birthday. 2023 regular session Senate Bill 162 codified investments Governor Beshear's administration has made in DJJ since 2022 and provided requested statutory language to continue improvements to staffing and security. Senate Bill 162 also required that the Justice and Public Safety Cabinet develop and implement a plan to create a new model of regional detention as soon as practicable, while safely segregating males and females and separating violent and nonviolent offenders. Senate Bill 162 in the 2023 regular session, monetary amounts associated with that Senate bill, $3.2 million to maintain salary increases for DJJ correctional officers, $4.8 million to provide salary increases to other job classifications within the department, $30 million to bring DOC correctional officers up to a $50,000 starting salary annually, $9.7 million for 146 additional DJJ correctional officers, $200,000 for operating expenses for a DJJ youthful offender management system, $4 million to provide security upgrades within DJJ detention centers, $1.5 million for DJJ to establish a diversionary program to identify and provide treatment for any youth identified as suffering from serious mental illness, $1.75 million to retain design experts to determine what facility changes are needed to return to a regional model, $250,000 for costs related to the transportation of female youth pending the return to a regional model. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it has. It has significantly increased staffing levels. You can go ahead and skip to that slide. We're going to skip to the slide with the statistics on that. But yes, sir, to answer your question, a lot of previous issues was related not only to staffing but a loss of experience. When we lost staff, we also lost experience related to the management of our offenders and an inherent knowledge of detention. Not only has the increase in salary hired additional staff, but it's also retained staff. They're staying with us longer. We still have challenges, but we've came a long way, as you can see by the slide. January the 1st of 2023, we had 313 staff, and by May the 22nd of 2024, 450 staff. Significant difference, and we're seeing a significant difference in the management technique and the retention and experience of our staff members in those detention centers and beyond.
All right, next question. I believe it's on the slideshow for House Bill 3 from 2023, which was in your presentation materials right after the Senate Bill 162. Are the budgeted resources for the Louisville Detention Center and the Linden facility projects, I take it from reading this slideshow, slide presentation, that those are sufficient as well?
I'll read the talking points, and hopefully this will answer your question.
Okay.
House Bill 3 provided appropriations to reopen the Louisville detention facilities, $13.4 million to design the first phase of renovating the downtown Louisville Youth Detention Center, $4.5 million to DJJ for renovation of the Jefferson Regional Juvenile Detention Center over in the Linden location. Does that answer your question, sir?
Well, I mean, I think partially. I mean, I guess, in your opinion, the funding mechanisms from 2023 and House Bill 3, does that adequately address those kind of the Linden and the Louisville projects, if you will?
It does help, but I think there's some other phases that we need additional funding for. You want to expand upon that, Roberta? She has the details.
Okay.
House Bill 6 gave us the additional funding both for the Louisville Detention Center and for the Jefferson Linden facility to complete both of those projects.
House Bill 6, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So with, I guess, House Bill 3 from last year, House Bill 6 of this year, do you believe that adequately addresses your all's concerns and requests?
In order to get those operational, yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like me to continue, or do you have additional questions?
I think you left off on House Bill 3 from the 2023 session. If you want to pick up there and
Yes, sir.
continue.
The 2023 regular session, these talking points are regarding capacity issues and recent legislation. According to the Administrative Office of Court data, had the automatic detention provision in House Bill 3 been in effect in 2022, it would have resulted in the detention of more than 400 additional juveniles annually compared to the existing law. Senate Bill 162 required that juveniles be detained at their closest detention center as much as practical, while safely segregating males and females and separating violent offenders and nonviolent offenders. This would require that high offender males and low offender males be housed in the same facility but kept separated from one another. Without the two additional female-only facilities that we requested, DJJ will not be able to move to a regional model and the current female-only facility must house both levels of females. To ensure safety separation, separation requires not only separate sleeping quarters, but separate programming, schooling, dining, and recreational activities and areas. The legislature did not fund the request for 2 additional female-only detention facilities. Combined with the additional detainees produced by House Bill 3, this Senate Bill 162 mandate will be extraordinarily difficult to meet given the relatively small capacity of each detention center and the limitations of aging physical facilities not designed for these circumstances. I'll just keep going. These talking points are initiatives to address staffing, so I'm switching gears with you. It's been a top priority for Governor Beshear's administration to recruit and retain an adequate staff to secure facilities. As we mentioned previously, due to the staff salary increases, we've seen a significant increase in staffing and retention of the staff that we are hiring. In December 21, Governor Beshear announced a 10% raise for security positions. In July of 22, an 8% increase for all state employees, including DJJ. Previous efforts didn't solve the problem at that juncture. In October of 22, youth worker starting salaries were increased to $44,600. In February 23, Governor Beshear raised the starting salaries further to $50,000. At the request of Governor Beshear's administration, the General Assembly appropriated $3.2 million to sustain previous DJJ salaries, in addition to $30 million to bring the starting salaries up to $50,000 annually for all DOC correctional officers. The General Assembly also appropriated $4.8 million to increase the salaries for all DJJ workers. 2 years ago, the starting pay in juvenile detention centers was only $30,000 annually. It is now $50,000, and I appreciate your all's support for that. Field positions, January the 1st, 2023, we had 313 field positions. And I'll skip ahead until May 22nd, 24. We had 454 field positions, a significant improvement. Well-trained, properly equipped staff in adequate numbers is a necessary predicate to the safe, orderly operation of detention facilities. Oftentimes, problems begin with poor staffing levels. In order to succeed, any programming designed to better the well-being and outcomes of juveniles in DJJ custody must be based upon a foundation of safe and secure facilities. We have to stabilize and secure facilities and create a good work environment before we can foster treatment and educational opportunities. We have to stabilize the environment in order to make those things happen. In the past year, because of the administration's efforts, we've increased frontline correctional officers by 63%. This is the highest number DJJ has employed in recent history, and we're continuing to recruit and retain staff, which further secures our facilities. Security policies. At Governor Beshear's directive, DJJ initiated significant changes to the structure of the detention system to increase security and operations for staff and youth. December 22, DJJ opened the first female-only detention center in Campbell County. That has since been moved to Boyd County due to staffing. We wanted a more experienced staff base with less vacancy rates, so it's now located in Boyd County. In January 23, DJJ separated male juveniles by security level based upon severity of offenses. Well-trained, properly equipped staff in adequate numbers is a necessary predicate to the safe, orderly operation of detention facilities. Currently, female-only facilities. Boyd County is our detention center. We have a youth development center and group home in Moorhead, which is close by. Our high-security detention facilities is Adair County, Fayette County, and Warren County. Low-level facilities, detention facilities, are Breathitt, Campbell, Jefferson, and McCracken County. The next talking point is training. In December of 2022, the DOC provided a general training to all DJJ Detention and Youth Development Center facility superintendents on security threat groups, or what we commonly refer to as gangs. On March the 21st, 2023, STG coordinators received training on how to identify STG members, affiliations, and characteristics within facilities, along with STG data collections. DJJ collaborated with the DOC and law enforcement on this training. Superintendents selected STG coordinators and designated those individuals to be active and collect data and track STG members within their facilities. In June of 2023, the DJJ Training Division reviewed and updated the security topics included in its monthly emergency response training for all facilities. The first training went out July 23 of 2023 and has continued since. In March 2024, Mr. Troy Pollock was appointed as the Director of Training at DJJ. He brings over 35 years of correctional experience to the position and is the lead on revamping DJJ's training curriculum to align with the training needs assessment conducted by the Eastern Kentucky University. Defensive equipment.
I can stop you there.
Yes, sir.
I believe we have a question from one of the committee members, Senator Funky Fromeyer.
Thank you, Commissioner White,
Yes, ma'am.
for sharing this detail with us. I'm particularly concerned about the Campbell County Detention Facility, and I really value and appreciate your great experience. What do you envision the future of the facility in Campbell County for our juveniles?
Currently, it's a male facility. We have capital construction projects going on for there.
It's a small one, and it's under $1 million.
You want to talk about what we're doing physical plant-wise, or we got to? Okay. It is our plan at this current time to continue operations there as a male facility. We don't have any plans to change the mission. Ma'am, what we need to see there is an increase in staffing and to build an experience base before we can further determine what the mission is going to be. But I think that facility's design is going to be a lower custody detention facility.
Thank
Yes,
you, Mr.
yes, please.
White.
Yes, ma'am.
Has there been, and forgive me, I'm not aware, that's my Senate district, but has there been a change in leadership at that facility, recognizing the acknowledged staffing issues? I have to admit that's one of the most highly populated areas in Kentucky, so it appalls me that we can't staff it.
Yes, ma'am. There's been a change in leadership. The current superintendent has officially announced his retirement. We have appointed an interim superintendent from the Louisville area, and we're currently searching for a new superintendent. So we're going to hold interviews for that position. So yes, ma'am, there has been staffing changes.
Please proceed.
Yes, sir. DJJ was historically limited in its ability to prevent disturbances from occurring and to respond effectively when they do occur by a combination of outdated policies and statutes, including a lack of access to non-lethal defensive equipment, inadequate training, flaws in aging physical plant facility designs, significant staffing shortages impact the ability to adequately respond to incidents. Because of the changing environment and due to a more aggressive juvenile population, comprehensive changes to the DJJ policies, procedures, and regulations were necessary to provide staff with the protective equipment to adequately respond when violent incidents occur. In January of 2023, leadership decided to deploy non-lethal defensive equipment for the safety and security of youth and staff. These include OC spray, conducted energy devices, or what's referred to as tasers in the field, and shields to protect staff. Leadership leveraged the expertise of the Department of Corrections to develop policies and provide training while recognizing the significant differences between utilizing such methods with adult and youth populations. Recognizing the utility of such equipment, the General Assembly mandated the use of defensive equipment in DJJ facilities. Shields and other defensive equipment were distributed to facilities starting February of 2023. All detention centers have been trained and certified on OC spray. DJJ is in the process of training on conducted energy devices. All uses of pepper spray are investigated by the Internal Investigations Branch, which is independent of the Department of Juvenile Justice and reports directly to the Secretary of the Justice and Public Safety Cabinet. There have been 107 investigations of pepper spray use since the introduction of pepper spray, of which the Internal Investigations Branch has concluded that 14 were substantiated misuses. There has been no deployment of tasers thus far. OC spray continues to be a safer alternative than physical contact between juveniles and staff, reducing injuries and medical attention. A comparison of staff assaults before and after the use of pepper spray was authorized shows that staff assaults have decreased by 40%.
If I could stop you there, I believe we have one question. After that question, just to be sure we're finished in time, if you could kind of summarize the remainder of your presentation after this question.
Yes, sir.
Call on Senator Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, I'm glad to see the incidents of assault down for our workers, but I'm also going to ask, is the information of potential pepper spray and taser provided to those juveniles when they arrive at a facility, or how do they know that that is a possible means of discipline?
I believe that we've added that into our offender handbook, but I'll have to go back and check and see what vessel communicates that to our youth, and I will provide that information.
Yeah, I'd just like to, I represent guards and juveniles, and I just would like to, I think, that they're well informed of potentiality of that. I think it's a deterrent, but I also believe there should be some notice. And I would just ask, of the 107 and then the 14 misabuse, I'd be interested in the breakdown of facility on that, and what is the penalty for misusing with the employees.
Yes, ma'am. The penalty will range from suspensions, and it could be documented counseling, it could be suspensions, and I have seen the appropriate penalties levied upon staff members. We take that very seriously, and misuses will also be coupled with retraining. So not only do we sanction the staff member, but we retrain the staff member. And I think with any new less than lethal defensive equipment, there's going to be a learning curve when it's first introduced. We saw it in the Department of Corrections. I was there on the ground as well. But over time, folks get more confident and more knowledgeable about appropriate uses. And we can provide a breakdown of those facilities. If I don't have it today, we'll get you a breakdown. But I'm going to guess it's going to be in those higher detention facilities where the pathology is more violent towards each other and towards the staff.
I think that's probably the case. There was just a lot of discussion on that issue, in the last couple years in dealing with the juvenile population. And I'd also like to commend you on the hiring, Mr. Pollack. I think you're on the right path there with the training protocol, and he certainly brings a wealth of experience to that. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I believe I have a question from Representative Kulkarni, and then I've got on my list a question from Senator McDaniel and Representative Bray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of questions, kind of going back to the beginning of your presentation. And thank you, by the way, for the comprehensive presentation that you're giving us today. I had a question around, and I commend your focus on alternatives to detention, especially focusing on mental health, on providing education, and, vocational opportunities to these youth. My question is, my understanding of Senate Bill 162 was that the salary increases were for corrections positions and not necessarily case management or other youth worker positions. So you had mentioned, for instance, you had also added additional DJJ youth workers. My question is, given the focus of that bill for funding correction-specific positions, are these additional DJJ positions that you mentioned going to go towards the goals of alternatives to detention, especially providing mental health care and other wraparound services?
Yes, ma'am. I can get you a better breakdown of additional staff that we hired, but I can tell you specifically just yesterday that I was reassured with some promising news that we're hiring additional licensed clinical social workers. So that is a specific focus that interested me, and we had a robust discussion, and it was very promising news that we've added those positions and we're hiring additional positions. But I can get you a better breakdown of what we've hired and what positions we may have added. I know that we have, but I want to provide you specific information. But that was very promising news concerning those licensed clinical social workers that can provide us services and assessments within our higher detention facilities.
I appreciate that,
Yes,
and I'm glad of that as well. Just one more question, Mr. Chair. I had a question also, kind of echoing the senator's question about the different facilities and capacity and things like that. Do you know, and you can get this to me later, the breakdown of youth from Jefferson County that are going to these other facilities, wherever they may be, maybe because of the female-male separation, because we haven't funded the 2 additional facilities? Just what is the breakdown of Jefferson County specific youth going to out-of-county facilities?
I would have to provide you the specific numbers, but I can tell you authoritatively that the catchment area, the regional catchment area, is going to be Adair County, where they will first go to be booked in. They may be reassigned to a lower level facility or a different facility, depending on what their needs are. But the numbers and the frequency, we can provide that information. We do track that information. Yes, ma'am. We will get that to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, next on the list is Senator McDaniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, thank you for your testimony today. Some quick questions and then a brief statement, please. Do you house any youths that are in there for murder,
Yes, sir.
rape,
Yes, sir.
burglary,
Yes, sir.
assault?
We have all those. Yes, sir.
I think that it's unfortunate. We sometimes have short memories here, and a lot of times experts who get the luxury of walking marble halls on a regular basis don't think about what polished linoleum floors can mean when you have a facility that gets out of order. And we are but a short time from guards locking themselves in a room as they awaited the arrival of the state police to regain control of facilities. And so as I read through some of the criticisms of your agency, and let me digress for a second and say we're all very happy that you're on board. Your resume is one that speaks for itself, and we're optimistic about the results you'll see. But we cannot maintain order if we have a staff that feels unsafe to do the basic actions of doing so. And so, unfortunately, some of the population that you deal with, I would venture to say at this point, probably the majority of the population you deal with are young men who are probably strong, who've gotten out of order, and who frankly have resorted to violence at more than one time in their life. So if they have to deal with some pepper spray, possibly if they have to deal with electronic means of tasers, which you've not had to use yet, to keep order in these facilities, those sometimes are the types of things we have to do if we want to keep people safe. Money will go so far to get them in the door, but if you have to worry about getting beat up incessantly, you're not going to stay very long. And we have to have people with experience who can learn those lessons. And so I hope that your agency will know, and your people who deal with these young people will know, that they will have our support as they go through these processes. And I find it unfortunate that those who would rather forget that there is a problem that must be dealt with societally know that the people on the front lines of providing the solution to that problem have to feel safe in the environment which we charge them to operate. And so I thank you for what you're doing, and I hope that we can resolve this in a manner that is respectful to the people who do go out on the front line and deal with young people who, frankly, society sometimes doesn't want to think have to be dealt with. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McDaniel. Well said. Agree with your sentiments there, and thank you for your comments. Next up on the list is Senator Funky Fromeyer, and then I'm going to allow a very brief wrap up from the presenters so we can vacate the room for the next meeting.
Thank you again, Commissioner White. Your leadership is perfectly timed. So thank you for being in your leadership position. We have understood that the mental health facility is needed, though in looking at the governor's budget, I'm wondering if it was budgeted well. Can you give us a better understanding of what's the anticipated cost of this mental health facility?
Sure. So I can tell you that we are still continuing to work to refine that. Since it wasn't funded in House Bill 6, we've continued to work with a team of design experts that have an expertise in trauma-informed care and high acuity mental health, as well as CHFS. And so we're regularly meeting with them because we want to develop, a really well-rounded proposal, make sure we're not missing anything. And so we've continued that work since the end of the previous session, and we're hoping to be able to present that again, and hopefully have a facility that everybody feels meets the needs of what we're looking for and what is really needed in Kentucky. And I think it would also be really a groundbreaking and unique facility across the USA as a whole, and would probably be a leader in the type of services that we would be providing. And I did want to follow up on your previous question as well, if I may. I was able to find that since March 23 in Campbell County, as far as correctional officers go, they've increased from 10 to 27 with that pay increase. So there has been a significant increase there because of those pay raises.
Good, thank you. And follow up to your mental health facility question, is there an anticipation of a reuse and repurpose of an existing facility as well? Can you give us a time frame that we can count on?
Sure. So we're looking at all of the possible options that we have, and that would include looking at any facilities that we might be able to repurpose, whether DJJ owns them or another state agency owns them, as well as building something sort of from the ground up on a piece of state property. So I think our hope for just a really preliminary timeline would be later this year, as far as getting all of that information together and having a really good kind of initial master plan for what that would look like.
All right, we'll give you about 1 minute to wrap up here, and we'll need to conclude this meeting.
I think that I'll skip ahead and I'll go to the JCOMS slide. JCOMS is the Juvenile Kentucky Offender Management System, and I think it's something that we need to mention and to highlight upon conclusion. This is very similar to what the Department of Corrections successfully deployed within its department. JCOMS is going to tie a couple of legacy systems together, and it's going to provide much better, much more timely data statistics, and it's going to allow managers to see the quality of the work that staff are doing as well by looking at their documentation. But DJJ is in the process of establishing JCOMS on a COT DJJ server and building the production and training environments. The next major projects in JCOMS is to replace the DJJ owned and operated detention booking system with appropriate JCOMS modules. The DJJ and CHFS has worked, I think I'm on the right slide here. The detention booking system supports the juvenile detention centers. The project is currently in the planning phase and has an estimated start date of late June, early July. We are on track to implement JCOMS. I can't say enough good things about it from the Department of Corrections and our use of data, and it's going to be a great system, and we're really looking forward to the introduction of JCOMS. I think I'll conclude, and if I have enough time, to read through a mental health bullet and mental health services, and we can conclude at that point. Senate Bill 162 required DJJ to enter into sufficient contracts to ensure availability of institutional treatment for youth with severe mental illness. DJJ is required to provide youth in crisis access to mental health professionals. The bill included $1.5 million for DJJ to establish a diversionary program to identify and provide treatment for any youth identified as suffering from serious mental illness. House Bill 3 required automatic detention of youth accused of public offenses, consider violent felony offenses for up to 48 hours, exclusive of weekends and holidays pending a detention hearing. And I had mentioned those licensed clinical social workers, and they're going to be directly tied to assessments of those types of youth. Youth detained in DJJ detention facilities complete initial medical and mental health screenings during the intake process. On-site counseling, staff follow up with youth on an as-needed basis via individual or group counseling. The DJJ released an RFP for institutional mental health treatment in detention centers May the 15th of 2023, and this closed June the 12th of that year. We're working with State Interagency Council for Services and Support to Children to establish the diversionary program to identify and provide treatment for youth suffering from severe mental illness. And in respect to our time, I can conclude at that point. But in closing, I would like to say that I really appreciate the support of the General Assembly and the legislators and Governor Beshear's support to help move juvenile justice forward. We're very excited about the direction we're going, so thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you all for the presentation. Maybe later on in the interim, we'll have you all come back to give more of a, I guess, macro issues. I know there's a lot of moving parts to all this. You kind of had a macro presentation today. I appreciate it. We had on the agenda an overview from the for the fiscal biennium. I don't think we're going to be able to get to that today, but maybe at the next meeting. Our next meeting, July, I don't know. The date may change on that. I've talked to Senator Funky Fromeyer, so committee members, you might want to follow up. We may have to change the date due to, I think we'll both be unavailable on the date that it's currently scheduled for. So it's possible that that could be rescheduled that month. And I believe we have a couple members that came in, if you all want to record your attendance. I think Senator Webb came in, Senator Funky Fromeyer, Representative Brown. All right, meeting is adjourned.